How will you be remembered? Be it your adventures through the campaign as the valiant Celia Stoutheart, or maybe your tale as the Rana slaves breaking free of their chains and bashing back against the morally corrupt monsters of men that enslaved them. Hey there. How you doing? Welcome to this quick review of Songs of Conquest. Before we dive into it, I just wanted to quickly let you know that this episode was voted on by you guys. If you would like to vote on the next game we review in this series, hop on over to the community tab and it should be the first thing that pops up. And secondly, if you don't mind tapping on that like button for me, it would be much appreciated. And if you want to see more of this type of content when you finish the video, don't forget about that good old subscribe button. Alright, now that the typical YouTuber spiel is out of the way, let's talk about this fantastic early access indie game that brings fresh breath into the turn-based genre. Songs of Conquest is a delightful mesh between your classic turn-based tactics game like XCOM and Jagged Alliance and joins it with the larger scale resource management side of Age of Empires. And I fucking love it. Allow me to set the stage and give you a clearer picture. From the menu, you can either pick to play a single-player campaign or play multiplayer matches against real players. Sidebar, I personally was not able to get a match with any real players as this is still a relatively small game in early access, but I did get to play a match against a bot or two and it was an absolute blast. It's very well developed and an altogether pretty well balanced experience. Cutting back, let's assume you wanted to experience the campaign. From there, you will find yourself with three options. The first song, where you play as the mostly human faction of Arleon, aka the basic bitch empire. In the mini campaign of Arleon, you will battle forth as Cecilia Stoutheart, who is the strictest definition of a D&D paladin possible. As Miss Stoutheart, you will traverse through the empire of your father the king, restoring his iron fist where its grip has weakened, until you discover something far more deadly than brigands and ambitious barons. I won't spoil anymore, as I did find this campaign rather intriguing, even if it did fall to relatively common fantasy tropes from time to time. Nothing wrong with that though. In the second song, you play as the Rana I mentioned earlier, who are these amphibious humanoids that often dwell in the swamps, mostly keeping to themselves. But as times progressed, the surrounding kingdoms began to harass and even enslave the Rana people, and over time they became scattered. Then enters you, Rosk, the wielder destined to bring his people back together. Now for the third song, I haven't yet had the chance to completely play through it, as it was released halfway through while I was writing this review, but so far it's pretty fantastic as well. It follows the Loth faction, a declining barony that embraced the ways of the unseen society, which is, unshockingly, a cult. It's a cult. Your goal in this campaign is to bring this barony back to its former glory by any means necessary, which yes, means casting Ray's dead. This is the Necromancer faction. It's pretty goddamn cool. So that's the basis of the plots for each campaign so far. Each one is relatively short, running you around 4 or 5 missions per. Each mission starts with you with nothing but your main character and a handful of units, although the amount of starting units does change depending on the level that you're on. You then spend your movement searching through ruins, corpses, or generally bothering the local wildlife. After you spend your movement, your turn ends, and all other wildlife and enemies get theirs. And once again, when they're done, it will return to your turn. Pretty basic turn-based shit, you understand. Other than the artifacts and such that have different and unique effects, as you explore through the world, you will also find yourself finding outposts and towns that can be claimed under your banner. When you claim a town, you can then begin upgrading it and building new structures with the materials and currency you've scrounged up from your adventuring. These structures can go from something as simple as a quarry that earns you 1 stone a turn, a barracks that allows you to recruit soldiers, or even an academy that gives you the option to learn new buffs and upgrades for your buildings, main character, or just units in general. Yes, that was a voice crack. But beware. Other enemies can claim these towns and kingdoms for themselves as well, should you forget to defend them. This leads to later levels where things get really expansive to feel really engaging and stressful in the best possible ways. You can have multiple towns that you have turned into a well-oiled capitalist machine, but then suddenly you watch it begin to crash and burn as an enemy has begun to attack this town, and you're all the way across the goddamn map collecting apples or something. Suddenly, you're rushing your way up there, only to get ambushed by another group of enemies. It's amazing, and genuinely feels very dynamic. Speaking of getting ambushed, let me run you through the basics of combat real quick, just so you can get an idea of it. While you can auto-resolve your combat encounters, kinda like in Total War Warhammer, it's generally a better idea to fight through the battle yourself. The only times I really found myself using this feature is when I was fighting enemies that I knew would be a piece of cake, and auto-resolve tended to do a good job recognizing that and letting me win with minimal losses. It's a decent time saver that helps you from getting bored in encounter-heavy areas. Now, when you actually get into a combat encounter, you are tossed into a hexagonal combat map, where the environment has some height advantages, and in some cases even barriers you can't cross through, but it does lack variety outside of that. The combat arenas are also pretty small, but these are tiny gripes, especially since the combat shines in some of its other combat mechanics. But other than those cool mechanics, which we will talk about in a bit, you are treated to the relatively simple turn-based system with different types of units having different ranges and damage values. For example, the horse-riding knights are absolutely deadly, but take extra damage from the medium-ranged spearmen. Archers have high range and deal extra damage from vantage points. Nothing mind-blowing, you've seen all this before, but the main extra spice added into the mix comes in the form of your essence, which is what you expend to cast your commander spells. Each commander has a different slew of spells, ranging from straight damage to buffs or debuffs. The essence you release to cast these spells come in 5 different varieties, but rarely will you ever have to worry about more than 3, depending on the commander you are playing. For example, Arleon focuses Order, Chaos, and Creation essence. This essence is earned at the beginning of each turn. Some units give buffs to this. For example, if you have 3 Arleon footmen, they will altogether give you +6 order essence each turn. So building your army around the type of essence you want is pretty pivotal to success. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. It's a bit much at first, but if you continue to delve into it, you will find Songs of Conquest to reward your time greatly. Anyways, all these great mechanics carry over to the multiplayer sides of things as well, leading to what I imagine is a wonderful experience, especially if you can manage to convince some friends to buy it, I bet. Now, there's one more thing about this game that I love that was just the extra cherry on top. Every time you finish a campaign level, they play a song that's being performed by a bard that details the events you just experienced, and the song weaves from level to level, eventually making a full bardic tale. And the song is quite good on its own to begin with. Just give it a listen.
With grim conviction rose Cecilia of stout heart to crush rebellions and push back another upstart.
This adds very well to the overall vibe and theme of the game, and I think it goes a long way of showing the care these developers put into their game. And you just know I had to mention how good this artwork is. The mixture of excellent pixel art with these semi-3D environments are just so mwah, chef's kiss. And the best part is there's more to come. I think that's what I love so much about these early access games that are already so good. I have even more to look forward to. Overall, Songs of Conquest is a fantastic addition to the turn-based genre, and if you're a fan of this game style, you'd be a fool to miss out. Anyhow, thank you so very much for watching. If you'd like to vote, as I mentioned earlier, head on over to the community tab. Would love to hear what you think of this time's selection, as well as any games you think should be considered for the next vote. Just go ahead and comment them on that post. And if you enjoyed this video, do cast a raise dead on that like button. And if you'd like to see more content like this, do give that subscribe button a slash of your mithril bladed axe. But most importantly, have a wonderful goddamn day, and don't die.